Well, hello and welcome everyone to the first ever Era Pitcast, our podcast for the very first time. Yeah, welcome race fans to the very first episode of the Era Pitcast. I'm your host, C.Fengler, most know me. I'm here with my co-pilot and the voice of strategy himself, C.Wall. We are all very excited to bring you the latest and the greatest and sometimes the most chaotic stories from the heart of sim racing. And this is the place now where passion meets precision, and you can get an insider look at all things ERA. So,
that's it, isn't it? That's it.
And obviously, apart from Chris, we've got a few guests here. One of them being lesser known, perhaps, for Server 2, but very prominent for Server 1. And that's the man behind the voice himself, Stephen Kernick from South Africa, joined tonight. Welcome, mate.
Thank you very much. No, thank you very much. Really excited to be here, and considering a bit of history of being the first ever podcaster at ERA, it's exciting. It's nerve-wracking. There's butterflies, but much like getting on the mic for any of the racing, it's always going to be a huge amount of fun, but no one can guess what's going to happen. I mean, we can have a script, but it's going to go off a script. It's already done that well before we even went live.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've got a script. It'll last about 5 minutes, and then we'll just go wide. It's going to go rogue. But yeah, it's. I think this has been this has been an idea that's been floating around for a while, on it. And with season 13, I know it's 12. With season 13 due to start, really good time to do it. And we've got a load of new drivers. So if you're new to the racing, this should be a really good source of information to get to know who you're racing against as well.
Absolutely. And as you can see, at least the more common folks do know that we have now represented Server 1 quite heavily. But to have a voice of reason in here, we also have today with us in the pit box Dennis the Menace Hook. Did I pronounce that right, Dennis?
Who's that? I don't know. Definitely not me. I'm trying to get my fucking camera to work, but it's not.
Well, for those listening in rather than just watching it, this is something that you're going to be spared of, seeing our faces here on screen. But if you ever want to do this and you're going to get the full view of it, then perhaps head over to our YouTube channel that Stephen has helped us massively to grow. And yeah, tune in. Get a little look at everybody in here. And of course, as it's good tradition with shit talks about racing, we're not going to do this without a beverage, will we?
No,
Well, that's fucking obvious, isn't it?
We're all on the sauce, I think, is the general rule here.
So, to everyone listening and to everyone listening at this back, everyone in here with us in chat, cheers to you.
Cheers.
So,
I hope I put enough water in it. Nope, I didn't.
Stephen's being sensible about this and not joining the Renegade.
No, it's called being on duty soon.
Yeah, you're responsible. You're an adult. The rest of us are just reprobates.
This is bullshit. No camera for me then, I guess.
by the way,
No,
those in chat or those watching on YouTube, I hope that Stephen perhaps has an eye on the chat of YouTube.
I do.
So
I do.
if
I've
you can
got
let us
bubbles
know
and
if
stuff.
the music in the background is prominent at all, too loud, anything, let us know. Right, but to kick things off, before we head into anything season 13 related, because obviously the name of the episode is episode 1, Lights Out for season 13. Let's talk a little bit about season 12. And I think...
Oh, he's back.
Oh,
Oh.
Fengler went exactly the same route as trying to get into turn 1. Ventures off a little bit. Then comes back.
Yeah, I don't know. Just the problem is that right now it's OBS is trying to reconnect. So I hope that just works in a second.
It's on.
It
It's
is?
on. I can see it. Be back up. Yeah, we're back up.
Okay.
Hello
Cool.
to everyone in chat.
So let's hope this doesn't continue. yeah, so nobody has a broader view upon the last season than Stephen. So, Stephen, you had the absolute outside view onto the racing, at least in Server 1. What was your impression of Season 12? What was your personal highlight?
Well, I would have to say season 12 was back and forth. You don't know who was going to get it. New names arrived, old names were there. We had the battle between Christoph Peterson and Mahayath Musa that went down to the final race to score the points. It landed up with backmarkers changing it all. We actually got to see a GT3 car go launched up in the air, which was always interesting to see. But I've got to say, the highlight moment for me was we've recently had the introduction of gold into the server in season 11. Season 12, it was that. We had a diamond, a platinum, and a gold all in the top 5 in one race. There was all 3 classes in the top 5 that went at it for at least 20 minutes of the race. And there was no way of who's going to get it, who's not going to get it, who's going to end up on top. It was my personal favorite is you now not having that massive split of, hey, the pros are the pros and the golds are just sort of around. Everyone's a lot closer to one another. So that was my personal moment. And at the end of it, well, we all know the final race changed the leader of the race in platinum, in gold, and in diamond was set in the last 10 minutes of the race. That was a bang. And no one could see that coming. It had everyone on the floor, but what a moment.
Absolutely. I mean, the numbers do reflect on that. I mean, looking at the top scorers, we have Christoph Peterson, who in the end won Diamond with 109 points, which is 17 points ahead of Musa. But this is not because of a skill difference or something. It really has to do with Musa, I think, had one bad race and one drop round. And the combination then obviously made for the difference. Whereas the moment you look at Platinum, you have Flo Scott taking the overall victory with 90 points, which is just 5 points ahead of Shooten. Like, that was unbelievable tight. And probably could have been a bit more tighter if some few people wouldn't have quit it halfway
That
through.
I have cooked.
Oh, well, look who joins the party.
I have fucking cooked.
And
Well, you also had gold with Neil Greening, who managed to get the win over Lewis Knight. Lewis was really gung-ho to get in it, having lots of chats with the rest of the field, even saying, come on, guys, just hold him back a bit, just slow him down, do something to just work. And it landed up with a pit stop strategy. One pit stop strategy swapped it out. But I've got to take my hat off to a couple of drivers, Lewis Knight being one of them. When there was those absolute terrible races, smack at the bottom, had a disconnect, everything. The one thing I can point out is Server 1 had drivers coming back into the race, laps down, just to see the checker flag. Now, I know everyone has heard me prattle on the whole time of always see the checker flag, go for it. And we got to see drivers do exactly that, to pick up their socks, pick up their boots, get back in, get to the finish line. And that shows respect to the grids, it shows respect to the drivers, also the confidence in themselves that they're not going to end the story just, oh, well, I'm out of the whole thing, sodded. And that's what I loved about enough. Expecting season 13, we're going to see those moments come in where guys are going to have those bad races, but those finishes can be crucial to the points, as we've seen in season 12.
yeah, and now we obviously have to look further down into Server 2 as well. There we have Freddie Murley really running away with it. I went back, did the math. He did have 102 points, which is 42 points ahead of Finlay Gamble. Now, there was a distinct difference in pace. This is why he now drives, correct me if I'm wrong, but it should be Platinum even, Gold or Platinum, so he moved up to Server 1. At the same time, if the Silver drivers would just turn up 1 or 2 races more, this might have been a whole different story. Then we had Jeffrey Becker taking the win in bronze, which was a very, very tense fight. Like, I'm not gonna lie, we had 3 drivers in contention for the overall podium in bronze. He was just 8 points ahead of Robert Volt, and until the second last race, there was the possibility for Volt, Becker, and Adrian Marod to take the overall victory, which is very, very impressive, and it's just kudos to, I think, the license system at some points. And obviously we do have the iron category, which bled out over time, but saw Sean Young take the victory of 103 points, 18 points ahead of Lou West. But in iron, this sounds a lot, but it's not, because it's one of those classes where you have the highest fluctuation of drivers and where you have the biggest jumps in skill level just due to more training and more hours on track. But now we will have to ask someone who was in the middle of it, and that is obviously Dennis. Dennis, what was your perception of Season 12? I know you didn't race as much as you intended to, but what was your general takeaway from that season?
Well, my take is that, like, obviously, as you said, I haven't done many races in Season 12. I think I've only done 3. But I did watch some of the streams, live or back. And to be fair, the title fight got closer than I thought it would be. I believe at some point it was a 4-way title fight between Robert, Jeffrey Barker, Adrian, and Adam Stewart. With Robert taking the first place of the season at Imola. And it was, and pretty much from that first race, it was going to be a fight between Robert and Jeffrey, with Jeffrey in the end coming out on top with the last race. Robert realistically could have beaten him, but I believe from the last race there were some mistakes that happened on Robert's end, and unfortunately couldn't capitalize and lost it. Adrian was more in a fight in the end of the season for P3, because he pulled all of Lando Norris moments and eventually was way too outside of the points to make P1 happen in the championship, although theoretically not impossible. I believe Adrian could have won it if both Jeffrey and Robert stopped racing because of a very bad crash, but they didn't, so they kept it in. So Adrian, the best that he could do was take P3 away from Adam Stewart, which he did. So four-way title fight, I mean, that's for server 2, like, it's not bad at all. And I actually think that for season 13 it's going to be even more interesting. It's going to be an even bigger fight for the championship.
I hope so. I mean, a few things indicated that, but Chris, we've talked about this earlier. What are the exact numbers that we're looking at with signups now?
So we were at, give me just 1 second, 56, I think, was for server 2, with 52-ish for server 1. So
no. It was the
yeah,
other way around. You have 50, I don't know, 56, 57 on server 1 and 62 on server 2. So that's...
Has it reached that now?
Yeah.
Refresh my...
53
Oh, by
and
the way,
62.
Mr. Fengler, if you go on your 3 dots at the top of your Discord and just untick show new message previews, it's just frozen on the YouTube screen, that's all.
Let me see. It should be gone by now, but I'll have a little look.
Just in case anyone starts saying...
So Damien Maroney brought up an interesting one. His favorite moment from Season 12 had to be his win at Imola. And I remember it quite clearly of how he was chasing down, eventually got into a position, had to defend tooth and nail. And I think it was a win by half a second that he managed to stick ahead. So Damien Maroney really pushed himself out of his comfort zone to get that. But it was also one of the moments where we saw Damien Maroney getting into a fights for position and had a diamond in between them, a platinum in between them. We had the golds in between. It was just a mess of amounts of guys, but it went from everyone caring about what class they were into, what they're just finishing on the track is. And I think that was the most entertaining of the parts, because we always talk about the different classes system and how it's worked out well. But on track, everyone just tends to, first is first. Cross the checker flag is that. So Damien Maroney going and pointing out a very good one there of best moment, his win at Imola in a dogfight right to the end. So it's always good to see that. And it's nice to see a couple of the drivers also jumping in and sharing their moments. Big shout out to everyone jumping into the YouTube side of things.
Absolutely, we will
One question I had for Dennis while he was here, actually, just I guess a server 2 thing. While we're talking about server 2, because that pretty much always sees the new drivers coming in, how do you as a server 2 driver cope with people coming in that are just unknowns? Like, are you thinking about that coming into next season? Was it an issue before? Like, how do you manage that, mate? Because I can't imagine how I handle that, having a load of new people join.
He's just too pampered from server 1.
I am basically. I did try. I did try to get. I got demoted a few seasons ago, if you remember, because I had a couple of crap rounds, and then you put me straight back up again.
It won't happen, Dennis.
Go on, Dennis.
Well, to answer that question, it is actually quite a good question. When I first joined ERA, obviously I started in Iron, and to be fair, like when I started, I would say I was quite a bit cocky. I would say, this is gonna be easy. Like, I'm definitely better than Iron level. But then a good old friend of ours named Parson was also in Iron, and he absolutely destroyed me in Iron. Like, especially seeing so many new people coming in. There's a lot of unknown. Like, yes, sure, they may have a bronze license, but were they really driving at their full pace, or were they just driving safe in order so they can get their license? And once the official race comes in, like, are they actually gonna drive at their full speed? That is always a question up in everyone's mind, I'm sure, in server 2. I think we have 2 new people in bronze that may or may not be scary to look out for. I don't recall names right now. I would have to look back in the server 2 chat, but there's always that possibility, yes, that a completely new driver joins the club and just rocks our world and just destroys everyone. The possibility is definitely there.
Well, the reassurance, I guess, is that obviously the license system is there to qualify the drivers when they first sign up, but also that doesn't mean that that's where they're going to live forever. So if they do absolutely start killing it, which they might do, then they get shuffled up, and then they can come and try with us sweaty boys.
That's one of the takes I usually have on this, because people tend to do the license laps, and then once they just have the license, because it assigned them after the first stint on the second track, they just stop driving because they have the license. They don't fucking care for the moment. They're just too lazy to do so. Perhaps some people do give it a bit more care, like do a few more stints, improve more, and really come in on their, let's call it, proper pace. But then the era effect kicks in. They have been driving, on and off a bit and a bit more of a time. But once you get into that bracket and you get competitive and you have those people around you who you're constantly fighting, you just start doing more hours. And doing more hours automatically means you just start getting more pace out of your car. Out of a sudden, you find motivation to do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 hours of training per week. And out of a sudden, people who were, let's say, gold previously, jump up to diamond just because they develop so quickly over time by cutting the hours in.
We've seen it. We've seen it. It's happened, One of the things I was going to mention, or at least talk about, and he's in the chat, is Lindbergh's. I remember him coming through.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
There was a point where that boy was
Ferrari.
Yeah, and no, before the Ferrari, I'm sure he joined in a BMW,
Yeah,
and like
and on
the
server
guy,
2.
I don't think he was ever slow. I don't think he was ever slow, but when I'm quicker than him, then that's like a thing. And then now he's gone to the stratosphere. He's rapid. Like
The gap that
he's one
Chris
of
now
my
has to him,
potential surprise picks.
the actual gap that Limburg's produces upon Chris right now was probably double the gap he had previously behind him.
Yeah,
It's mental, right? But I got some numbers pulled up for you, just to fill you in. So the last season, obviously, you always start with that amount of people that have signed up initially, and you get the sign-ups throughout the seasons as well. So you end up with quite a high number at the end of them. Server 1 had 56 sign-ups. Currently, we are already looking at 53 for the opener. Server 2 had 47 sign-ups. We are now looking at 62 for season 13.
Oy.
And I
that's
think,
a huge increase.
Oy.
and this is where we have to give kudos to Damien, who has gone berserk on our social media channels, spammed Reddit, spammed our Instagram and whatnot to really get people in, and people do take that happily, as it looks like. The training sessions we've provided were quite taken upon, so like the basic course that is currently running. But now, away from this, like, kudos once again to you, Damien. Cheers to you, actually.
Yeah, well done, mate. That and aside from just the relentless posting on Reddit and everything else, have you seen the graphics the guy drags out even for off-season races? They were phenomenal. We're going to come to it later because I've seen it in the script. So unless we go wildly off script, we're going to come back to it. But the endurance stuff, the poster he's got for the opener for that, it's
amazing.
it's phenomenal piece of work. And when you're scrolling through like Reddit, because I'm on sim racing and that catches your eye, and then you're going to see it. So a lot of this growth that ERA is going through at the minute can be directly attributed to that guy. So Damien, thank you for all the work you've done, dude.
I've got to also point out, shout out to the drivers and to the spectators, because we've seen a huge growth jump in 2024 on the YouTube channel itself. I mean, from starting out, we saw there was about 14 people that were watching. The end of the final race landed up with over 30 people looking at this battle going on in server 1. And server 2 also landed up having roughly 20 people going and watching live. And it's just been growing and growing and growing. I mean, the channel itself has gone up. We nearly at 200 subscribers looking at it, which is no easy feat for any channel on YouTube, especially sim racing, which is generally rather niche and just talking about the usual, what's happening in terms of league racing. So thanks, guys, for all the support out there. And sharing it on to friends, families, the blind dog that's walking around outside, everyone that needs to listen.
I think I just quite like the approach that we have. A lot of communities just try and be a place that host races, whereas we try and just be a little bit more like, right, we're an academy. Sim racing can be a difficult nut to crack when you're first getting into it. I remember when I started, and it is an absolute fucking minefield, and that was before COVID. So I can only imagine what it's like now that this sort of online gaming space has exploded. So the fact that we have the approach of we want to teach people, we want to help. We're not expecting people to come in and be like fucking Lewis Hamilton. That's a refreshing approach compared to a lot of the other communities that I've seen. I'm not saying we're exclusively like that, but the fact that we've got that angle, I think, does us a lot of favours.
It's something that I say quite often. I think the intent to coach incoming drivers and lower the barrier is given with a bunch of communities. And while surely the admin team had a good do in, like creating the environment for this, the base work really comes from the community, because I think this is what we differ massively. We have a very active community that's very approachable and usually always goes for, let me help you out, or just gonna take out 10 and see where you can get better, how to set up your rig, how to, you name it. Usually somebody comes up and it's like, no problem, I've got the answer you need. Right, but not to menace about this any longer. Let's talk season 13. We already said it with the individual numbers for the servers, but we are currently looking at 115 signups for season 13, which is mental. Like the last time we've seen that many signups was probably season 5 or 6, but that was just signups to the evaluation races for those who remember, and probably 90 turn up. So my take is that probably we will see around 40-ish grids for the start of the season on both servers, which will make for around 80 active drivers. And let me tell you something, as somebody who's in contact with a lot of other communities as well and their league admins, this is not normal. This is really due to the singular work of Damien and everyone in this Discord that is taking part, that's actively being a part of the community, and like be welcoming to new drivers. Don't be like fuck off.
Yeah.
But just having that welcoming culture. That is absolutely mental. Right, and
That's underrated as well. Yeah.
And now let's dive a little bit deeper into the different servers. Let's start with server 2, shall we? And
I think it's only right.
Yes, we shall.
That's
server
the one
2,
that brings everyone in.
server 2 has now, I think, quite equally around 20 sign-ups per split. So you have 20 bronze drivers, 20 iron drivers, 20 silver drivers. Like the majority actually is iron, no bronze. Very sorry. Now imagine this: there are points available from P1 to P10. And you probably usually have around 70% of the drivers consistently turning up. So you're looking at around 15 drivers per class per race, which means getting into the points, driving into the top 10s is an achievement that cannot be underestimated. Like, this will be a serious fight. And looking at car choices, we see an unusual pattern. First off, we have one brave boy representing the Bentley crew, and that is Shauna. He's the only one on the server. We've got 4 Aston Martins, so they have taken a bit of a dive. They were more popular seasons back. 3 Nissan.
We've just got a bit bored of them.
Kind of, I guess, but at the same time, we've got now 3 Nissans in server 2, which is very, very unusual. We've got
that is so brave.
We've got no.
It's got its benefits though.
Like
They've got the benefits, and
the Nissan is, I would say, it's still possible to handle, but some people really decided to break themselves over a car. It's the one car that is claimed to be underbobbed constantly because one particular person drives it, and that's Christoph. So you already know what we're talking about. It's the Honda. We've got five Honda NSX on the server 2 field. Mercedes have taken a bit of a toll though. Like, we're looking at just 2 Mercedes. And then we've got a lot of BMWs, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We can make a cup race out of this. We've got 16 BMWs.
They're just the thing is, I'm gonna take a wild stab in the dark that most of those are iron drivers.
Let's see, bronze.
I don't know.
Bronze and iron, yes, bronze and iron. Half and half.
They're perfect start cars.
Yeah, true.
For the tracks we've got, like, it'll handle the curbs at Zolder quite nicely. It's quick at Pano. It's really good at Panorama. It's not too bad in sort of the mixed wet conditions, so it's not as risky as like a mean, I've never driven the 296, so God knows. But you take away certain benefits, the 296 really drags out, like the sort of aero and stuff. It's washed, it's crap. So yeah, I would expect the M4 to be quite popular.
At the same time, it's not easy to extract the top pace out of it, but you'd rather go for something
No.
stable, and that
No.
eradicates confidence. And then, mind blown. Okay, what would be the least expected car on a Server 2 grid out of your... What would you say is the most unlikely to be seen? Like, Honda is obviously out.
Porsche.
Okay, yeah, I can
Audi.
understand. Yeah, Audi. It's the absolute combination
Yeah,
of...
I was going to say the 488.
No, it's actually...
Who's
Yeah,
took the Audi? Has someone got it?
yeah, there's one Audi in there, and it's Jeffrey Becker. So Jeffrey Becker is going for a title defense
Oh,
in bronze on the Audi.
Ooh.
Quite the take.
Where's the wet
Right.
race this season? Where's the wet race?
That's Nerps.
Just drop that one. Just drop it. Don't just stay in bed. That's fine. You'll be okay.
Okay, moving on. Obviously, we've got a bunch of Ferrari 296. Good pick as a starter car. It's something that just really doesn't punish driving, allows you more to focus on your racecraft. But to anyone driving it, I can just recommend, at least for seasons, step away, drive something else. Helps with driver development. That comes from the wrong guy, but yeah.
No, you're right though. Like, and we saw this in. I know again, we'll come to it later, but the off-season stuff. You purposely chose cars that were a little bit more tricky to handle, and if you took part in that, you realise just how much the Ferrari helps you. It literally holds your hand, but it's a good starter car. So if you're getting into sim racing, absolutely nothing wrong with taking the 296. Just don't stay in it. Don't get reliant on it because it's going to hold your hand. And
Then-
you don't want that. You're not going to grow.
Yeah. Then something that personally makes me a bit sad, and that's just 2 Lamborghinis. But yeah.
Oh, no more bull run.
You need tissue, Christian.
I think it has to do with throttle behavior. Because starters are not too likely to...
Slow out of corners, isn't it?
It's pretty fast out of corners, but you really need to be very gentle with the throttle application. And let's face it, when we started sim racing, everyone in here had probably rather binary inputs, like it was full or nothing. And trying to get on the throttle as quickly as possible is something that you basically have instinct in yourself. It just doesn't help. Yeah, so moving on, we've got Porsche. Make a guess, how many?
Okay. 3.
I'd say a handful, 3 or 4.
A handful is pretty close to it. It's 5.
Wow. Okay.
And then,
Half more than I'd
Um,
expect.
yeah, then we've
I'm
got,
getting some love.
which is good. It's a car that really teaches you driving. Then we've got 8 McLarens, and last but not least, we've got 3 Ford Mustang. Not a car I personally enjoy, but
I expected more. I expected more, you know.
yeah, I think you usually do because it's the so-called mater car. But that's an interesting one. Okay, so Dennis,
I'm gonna stop you on that one.
yeah,
I want to
Yes.
stop you on that one. A Mustang as a meta car. Mustang going up Spa. You can't see over the darn bonnet. You literally
You can
like
move it.
just looking.
You can get booster
Oh,
seats,
dude.
fine.
Oh, sure, don't really. They're like a 3 pillows, yeah. You know? But it's one of those you come up Eau Rouge and you just looking at the sky and you just hope that no one is there. And by the time you've piled
Yeah,
into
well.
someone, you've already halfway down to the next corner. So that's one thing. It's really quick, but it's not. I don't know. It's a car that I feel that the visibility wise, it's a little bit rough to see, especially if there's low curbs that you're going after. I mean, you take a look at Zolder or Zandvoort or anything tracks like that.
I gotta make
You
it.
know, those low curbs can catch you.
I gotta make an unpopular statement here. I'm very sad that this car is basically discontinued at the moment. Like, there's still hope. Kuno's clearly said that they're going to focus completely on ACE this year. But perhaps at some point when they have more data, they're actually going to rework the Mustang, because this car in its actual, the way it's meant to be as a natural aspirated car, not with this BMW behavior, would be quite interesting. Nevertheless, right, yeah, let's do one last guessing game before I hand over to Chris, who's gonna do us a little walkthrough server 1. Who does come to mind that would pick the Mustang in server 2? It's a known name, and let me help you out, it's a staff member.
Hater.
Hater,
I don't know why, but I wanted to say
honestly,
Tetley.
Okay, first off, Hater
to
is
say
correct,
this-
but he's not staff. And Tetley,
Thank fuck for that.
Tetley is sadly not racing with us. He's enjoying his retirement and traveling more. So, staff member, and has a liking for BMW-esque handling.
And Nico Lawrence is not server 2.
I
Copy
know the
him.
answer, and I know why I didn't think about it. I know the answer because I've seen his livery. It's Thomas, isn't it?
It is. Thomas has switched
Yeah,
from the BMW to
It
the
stunned me.
Mustang.
It stunned me out because he was gold last season, so I didn't associate him with Server 2 straight away. But
Mhm.
he's not gold. He's not gold anymore. He's down in he's in silver now.
And last but not least, we have
'Cause he just kept crashing voluntarily.
Yeah.
Like he crashed himself out. He didn't do it accidentally. He just thought he got bored and spam. Go on, sorry.
Ah, okay.
right. That basically wraps server 2 for now. But we still have to talk about server 1, and that, Chris, was your part.
The sweaty boys. Right. Well, I think the point I wanted to make, I guess, is more to do with who's changed cars this season. That was the bit that I'm a little bit more interested in. We've got a lot of the usual suspects back. I think for Diamond, we've got how many? 16 Diamond entries. Chris will be in the comments with stats any minute about this, no doubt. But there's quite a few Diamonds, quite a few Platinums. Gold's quite large. Let's have a look and see if I can just tweak the data about. It's good to see some names return. So we've got, I'm just flicking through now, Mr. Venter, technically inverted commas, my boss, he's coming in a NSX now.
Yeah,
So
true.
he's changed cars from Aston Martin.
What would you say?
we've
Is
got
is,
He's crashed the
is that going to bring
crashed
back
the
his
Aston too much
potential?
and got annoyed.
It could do. I mean, the thing is, it's driving style. So he's so used to the Aston Martin, which I can tell you needs a very, not a specific, but, and this is going to sound shitty, but when you're driving at the level that Venter drives at, i.e., we give him a lot of shit, but he's quick. When you're driving that fast, to extract the top pace out of a car like the Aston, you actually do have to drive it in a very specific way. You can't apply that same driving style to the Honda and it won't work. So he's having to relearn. But he has also got he's got a direct drive now. So I'm curious to see how his new setup helps him out. But anyway, interesting change. He's taking the NSX, which is also the car of Christoph. So no doubt there'll be some inter-LNR collusion with setups and help between the two of them to get those cars set up. So there's that's quite interesting. We then have Mr. Lindbergh's, who I spoke about earlier as being my secret source in Diamond. He's in a Lambo. Keep an eye on Mr. Lindbergh's. I tip him for good things this season. I've drove with him a lot. I give him a lot of banter. Like he's got the world's crappiest rig, but the speed that kid is able to achieve is phenomenal. And now he's in a Lambo, so we'll see what he can deliver.
I already have to
There's a
save.
couple of new guys.
I already have
Go
to
on,
save.
sorry.
I really have to save myself here because we're still going to do the hot takes, but that is one of my hot takes, honestly.
That's mine. That's mine. When you asked me earlier, I was like, I've got a few ideas, and I'm not saying he's going to win it because Christoph and Moose are ridiculous. But he'll grab a win. I think he'll grab a win. I think he'll get a win this season, Lundberg's. Genuinely, without like internet disconnects and stuff like that, I think he'll get a genuine win. Anyway, sorry, I got distracted with hot takes. So we'll go through. I'm down in platinum now, so I've changed to the Mercedes. I've gone back to my roots. It's still broken, in my opinion, but it's not as bad as it was before. So I don't know. I'll let you boys argue about what you think I'll do this season, but don't get your hopes up.
You're going to make my life miserable.
Why?
I say you're going to make my life miserable in platinum.
Well, that's the aim, mate. That's the aim. We've got I think in the whole of top split, we've only got a handful of Ferraris. Not many BMWs. I think there's only like 4 or 5. So there's not many BMWs. I think the most popular car is Merc and Lambo, I think. Up in Server 1.
Yep. And we're
So
going to have
that, and then we've got. Go on, sorry.
We're going to have some news on that later on as well when it comes to, car choice and everything.
Yep.
But go on, go
on. Gold for me is going to be the split that I think Stephen is going to absolutely lose his nut over this season. He does give Diamond the credit it deserves for being really sort of close racing, but I think with the amount of new drivers we've got that have immediately qualified for gold pace, and the guys that we know are probably on the cusp of platinum pace anyway, that's going to be the most interesting split to watch for me, because you've got Freddie Merley. Kid's phenomenal. He's going to be up there. You've got Lewis, that because Bathurst in the calendar, I have to shout Lewis out. He's going to have a good result at Bathurst unless he gets taken out. I'm going to be watching David Roth and hoping that he has a season that doesn't have as much bad luck as season 12 had, because on his day, he's quick. And then you've got, and I'm going to butcher his name, but Nicholas Perra, who drove the Aston. He's now gone to a Lamborghini, and he's quick as well. So gold for me is going to be close. I know there's the new guys as well that we just don't know anything about.
I think one of the honourable mentions he forgot that is probably going to be thrown into the mix for the title fight will be Nico Lawrence.
I wasn't really talking title. I was just scrolling through names and going, "Oh, he's it." Yeah, but yeah, Nico. What we saw in the off-season races, that kid can drive. He was. I can't remember what race it was now. Was it Red Bull Ring where he just ran away with it? Basically, it might be Silverstone. Actually, I can't remember.
Silverstone is one of his own tracks, but yeah.
Yeah, he's so quick. Like on his day, he's really fast. He's quite susceptible to getting involved in other people's accidents. He seemed to have quite a lot of bad luck before. Yeah, the last season was really not his proudest one. He wasn't really happy with the amount of bad luck he had, but I think, he comes back and he has done for the first time something that we're close friends, and it was the first time that he went like, you know what, I'm gonna go down your road. Car control is only learned if you stick with a car for a bit longer, so I'm gonna go Lamborghini once again. Yeah. The thing is, the Lamborghini is a known quantity. True. Everyone knows about the Lamborghini, apart from the fact you can't see out of the damn thing. I did that enduro with you in Spa, didn't I, in the Lamborghini, and I had ingrained blind spots like there. I was just driving around with for a couple of weeks, but It's a really good car when you can learn how to carry the main thing on a Lamborghini is carrying the speed through the corners. Once you sort of get your head around that, then you can extract pace out of the car. It's not great in a straight line. So cars like the BMW and the Mercedes and stuff will probably eat it up in a straight line, but it really makes its pace in circuits that have a lot of conjoining corners. So it's really good at like Suzuka and Zolder. It should be pretty good at because there's no real long straights there. So that's probably why we're seeing quite a lot of Lamborghinis this season. But yeah, Server One. Sorry to cap it off. I'm really excited to watch Stephen's coverage back again.
Yeah.
That was like my highlight last season because I think the racing is going to be phenomenal this season. Like the names that are in this split, there's some top tier drivers in here. Like we've got drivers like Serodio coming in that Stephen will know from other series, and you know there's a lot of talent.
The thing is, we've got some huge talent, and what I enjoy about whether you're watching gold, platinum, or diamond, is the racing. They tend to race against everyone. They push themselves to verse the top echelons. I mean, Chris has felt it where we had quite a few of the gold drivers chasing down in qualifying. We had times where qualifying times were all matching one another to the absolute split second in gold, platinum, and in diamond on the grid. It's going to be an awesome one, but it also...
Wasn't it Monza where we had the top 20-ish drivers in less than 1.5 seconds?
Yes. It was Monza. There was Imola was the top 15. When we got to the end, no joke, even down to Brands Hatch, I highly recommend go re-watch that. The qualifying times were just on top of one another, within a second of one another. And for everyone that thinks that's an easy thing to do, remember that everyone is out on the track at the same time.
I've got a reason for that, Stephen, but I'll let you finish.
So you having to contend with any forms of traffic that may come. I mean, it's incredible to go and watch and be able to commentate on the stuff, but it also then leads you into the race where there's no, oh, well, he's in platinum, so I'm going to let him go. It's, he's in platinum, I'm going to beat him. There's a sense of I have to beat them, especially with the golds going and climbing their way up. And for the people that are sitting in diamond and in platinum, it's that, well, we have to try and prove where we are and why we belong here. Otherwise, there's that little bit of a lose out. I've got to say, I thoroughly enjoy it, but I'm also curious who's going to keep a cool head in the competition. I mean, we saw some huge races where it just needed that little bit more patience, that little bit more time, and a little bit more of, I'm just going to hold position and wait for a mistake instead of just putting the nose in, costing myself time, and then having, I mean, we saw, I think it was Nicholas that landed up with stuck his nose in at Bathurst and fell down 4 positions in one shot just by getting stuck on the outside, and that was it. He went down the way. Unfortunately, as he came up the mountain, it was also a big shunt there. But it shows that you've got to be very critical on what you're doing, and that's what I tend to love. You're having that bit of fun, you're having that good go. It's just always amazing. I also take a look back to when we had this very, very special race, the tribute race.
Oh, yeah.
And that moment of seeing the entire field go out was a bit of an exciting moment. It was a heartwarming moment, but the racing itself down the Conrad Straight, 2-3 wide, heading down, doing everything they can, was incredible. I mean, Christian, you landed up going 2-3 wide down the Conrad Straight, stuck on the outside, putting a wheel on the dirt, trying to get past. It's just madness.
I love that race.
But I can't wait to see it.
That race was... I've rewatched your stream, I'm not lying, about 6 times. I just put it on in the background when I'm doing mental sorry. No, that was my highlight of season 12, that race. You know, it was the race we did sort of for Dean, so that had its own special little marker for me as well, that we as a community sort of come together and recognise that and always do something for him. And then I actually had one of my better races as well, where I didn't absolutely stuff it and came P2 overall and stuff. So I love
Yeah.
watching that back.
But that is certainly those two things that I could have easily not have to deal with within this season. One being obviously the passing of Dean Height, which came and in the end very abrupt. I mean, we actually passed the season 12 review, but it's something that I think is really worth mentioning. For those who don't know, you might be listening and just like can't give the context to why this was now so special. Dean was a driver that was semi-active with us, like seasons back. He was very active, and
He raced.
in a quieter moment, he approached me and was like, "Yeah, I'm battling cancer, and if we wouldn't be willing to organise a charity race together with his other communities where he raced." Oh, so that was already quite hot for the moment, because he was like, "I know I'm dying. It's a tough time already on my family. It's very hard to talk about this to my kids who were like teenagers. But when it comes to my hobby and to my escape from reality, I would like to make this something positive as far as he could. And so let's make this an event where we bring all together all the people that do like me, that do like this hobby." And I think, what did we have? Like 150 individual participants in the total amount of 70 teams or something racing on Spa. It was a phenomenal crowd. It was a huge effort. And it was literally the very last time for a lot of people, me involved, that we were driving together with Dean on track, because after that his medical condition declined. We chatted a few more times, and you have to, just to understand this individual as a driver, he was battling cancer for, I can't quite clearly tell, was it the third or fourth time already? Yeah, different.
Yeah, it wasn't his first rodeo at the time when it got to the level it got to, and that I think everyone just recognised that it was a big thing, and he wanted to. I think the thing he wanted to do was sort of leave a legacy,
and he did. I
and
mean,
have people remember him for a certain.
He absolutely did, and I mean, it all became a bit clearer at the time. And he pulled back. He just wasn't as present anymore. At some point, then he already started selling his gear, or at least put it up. I think now his son inherited it and is looking into sim racing, which is nice. But yeah, you could just tell that it's declining, but in your own little world, because you've got other things going on, and you know the stress of the day is carrying you away. You don't want to face it that deeply. You just reject the idea that somebody's actually dying. And
the thing is, a lot of us will use sim racing, as did Dean, and a lot of us will use this almost as an escape from the stresses that we deal with outside of it. So for Dean to, I guess, unite as many people as he did for a singular cause, and we raised some decent money as well for that during that stream.
£2,500 or £3,000, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of money, and that's something that I think we can be proud of as a community as well. That we were just part of it, and we had a hand in, making something special out of what was quite a sad situation at the time.
Yeah, but then mid-season, getting the information that he just passed away recently was very hard to digest, and obviously what also could have really stayed away from, just to brighten up the mood a little bit again, was Imola. Imola on server 1, the first time ever that an era race was cancelled due to technical issues. We have full server access to the extent that we can. We don't have a dedicated machine, so we can't just fully relaunch the cloud that it's hosted on. but it
Yeah.
somehow completely fucked itself over when launching the race server, and it never came live, and people were like waiting for half an hour plus, and we tried everything to get it running, but then in the end had to call it off and do it in the season break, you know.
It was the opener as well, so
Yeah.
like
It
we were waiting. We've been waiting for this,
Yeah.
and we've practiced, and we've had test races, and we've done livery reveal videos and all that shit. And then it's Sunday night. We've all got like the week done with, the weekend's done. There's like 30 of us on a chat. We're all like, oh, let's click refresh. We all sit there. I mean, my rig's just here, but we all sit there going refresh, refresh. It's not working. Someone's got a message, friends, what's going off? And then it's like, this is not going live. Steven's on comms going, I don't know what's going on.
It was
And
one.
yeah,
no,
we
it
have to do
was-
it during the season three.
It was really
was
one
like,
of those.
okay, I'm ready for this.
Go ahead.
Oh man, but I've got
Meanwhile,
to say
server
that
2 was just chilling. We're racing.
you guys had it. I landed up watching the server 2. I was like, it looks
Yeah, me
like
too.
fun. It really
Yeah.
looks like fun.
We started a
quite
voice
enjoyable.
chat, watching it, commentating
Yes.
over it as it's happening.
But really, it was such a
So-
stressful moment as an admin. Oh boy. Okay,
They
I
have to
think
know.
Oh,
And-
the-
Yeah,
shall
they
we shall we move on a little bit, because we've got some
yeah.
more excitement coming in. Let's focus back on season 13. As important as this little excursion was, new feature coming in. It's already released. Most of you already know. Team Championships, which has on the last season, it was not very prominent, but now here we are. We are looking at a system in which you can have up to 6 drivers, stretched about both servers, all classes, and up to 2 drivers can score per class, like the top scoring drivers per class, the top 2 scoring drivers per class can bring in points.
2 drivers.
Yep. So the best obviously is to have 6 drivers in. We don't. Let's see how this goes. Well, we still need to figure things out, but you can have these 6 drivers in. It's the best combination. And then obviously, in that case, you best have at least 3 splits in there. Best would be all splits. So you could have 1 driver per split, and then you get the maximum amount of points. But what we're looking at is pretty good reception, because we're talking 15 teams that have registered. It starts
I'm in
with,
one.
obviously, we're starting with Wise.
Not the one you think. Not the one you think, actually.
Okay, so we're talking first off Wise Racing Motorsports. Freddie Merley, you remember, is the team owner. So the ever too fast silver driver has now arrived in gold in Server 1. And furthermore, fields Adam Stewart, my personal trainee, I would say, in the Lamborghini, now driving a BMW, so that's going to be a bit harder for me. Brendan Harvey, that is freshly in driver, not fully new, but I think he doesn't have too many races in with us. Currently,
The name rings a bell.
yeah, currently Iron. Cameron Ray, that's completely new on Iron, and Lewis Austin, also new on Iron. We do have the UK LAN winners, LAN, I don't know, Jack Biddle and Grant Bradley. Jack Biddle is a name that is known. Grant Bradley, not so much. So we have a silver and a bronze driver here. So if you perhaps are a UK LAN winners, they still have 4 spaces. Hit them up.
Get in touch.
We've got Team Turtles. That is a completely new one. That is Kieran Roth. Hit him up. Perhaps he needs some more drivers because he's alone at the moment, and there are still spaces. We've got Stunt Possum Racing. An interesting pick for a name.
I like that name, actually. I like that name.
We're looking at Pet Fortune, known entity, I would say, as Iron. Combined with a platinum driver, a new one, which is Raya Gel. One of the...
He's quick.
Is he? Oh,
Quick.
I've never seen on
Yeah,
track.
he's
Okay.
quick.
One of
he was in the Thursday race. Quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the recognizable bronze drivers, which is Idris Kahil, and the Hydnis as an iron driver. So 4 boys already in the stunt possum racing. Also probably looking for the last 2 drivers.
Yeah, I know Pat and D. I've spoke to him, but I've spoke to Pat quite a lot. D has quite possibly the world's worst internet as well. So interesting to see how that works out for him. Might be one to watch with Ryan and Cahill, because they should both score quite well in their respective classes.
Now, a name that is probably lacking still one driver is the next team, and it's one that especially Steven and Chris will recognize. I don't know, Dennis, if that is much of a name to you. Project Vapor.
Musa.
Exactly.
Andre Seradio, Project Musa, then there's another chap who races a Ferrari here in South Africa.
Five
Project
star.
Vapor consists-
Fires, yeah.
There's Fires, but there should be about 4 or 5
They're currently
of those
2.
drivers lurking around.
They're
Is there
currently
only-
2.
but I will have a conversation with Mr. Seradio, because there is a couple that are lurking around that are insanely quick drivers that race in the pro here in South Africa, and they do a fantastic job. So I would keep a very close eye on that team. They didn't go. They've held on to a team championship more than once here in SA with a couple of the leagues here. So I put my money on that. They're going to be a team to watch out for. They've given the LNR a run for their money more than once.
Yeah, and they're good drivers as well. Like they're good blokes. I've got a lot of time for them.
Then the next one
They
coming up.
just can't beat us this season.
The next team coming up. You guys tell me who the founder is. Nubs Racing Division.
That's Thomas, isn't it?
Founder is Thomas.
That's Thomas's team.
Guess who's not in the team?
I know, because Thomas is a founder of my team this season.
Ah, okay.
Well, my team as in my ERA team that I'm
So
part of for this.
we are
We'll
looking
come
at
to that, I'm sure.
team owner is Adrian Morad representing bronze, together with Robert Volt representing bronze. So 2 strong picks for the bronze category.
Definitely, yeah.
Damien Maroney for gold. Damien has
Interesting.
won races in gold last season, so not a bad pick either.
Yeah.
Eric Latil,
He's
quick for sure. Platinum will be one of the top runners. David
Yeah,
Shooten,
definitely.
as long as he doesn't spin, one of the top runners. And Diamond certainly worthy of podiums. And Fabio Vieiro in silver, also the moment he puts in the hours, is one to really reckon with in silver, and more than capable of ending up on the podium. So they've really put themselves in a very good place where they might be able to score serious points. Then
Interesting.
we've got the team with the big livery reveal. If you haven't seen it, head to the.
I've got it up.
All right, yeah.
I can show you if you want.
I'll just-
I've got it, because I think this. I got messaged last night by one of the drivers asking if I could just help for 10 minutes, and it was just, I'll just drive this car here, and I did it. And then this dropped, and I'm going to show it to you now. 1 minute, let me share my screen so you can. It's so good. It's so good. Right.
You're live
I'm
on
gonna
screen.
play-
I've got you on big.
All right. I'm just gonna press play.
We're not seeing.
of Rio Azul.
We are just seeing you, not your.
But Papa and Mama
Okay.
Wait, when?
You gotta select it.
Ah, yeah, okay. Yep.
So
Does
I've
that
got
work?
it. Yeah, I've got it. Go ahead.
Okay. Right. Let me restart.
the little village of Rio Azul, life was moving at a slower pace. But Papa and Mama Duck had bigger dreams of a fast and better life. Running a family racing team, the duo rose to legendary status, known for their speed, precision, and unwavering
Oh, God.
commitment to ducks alone. Today, the 6 brothers, Christian, Flo, Mike, Miles, Lewis, grew up
This is so
in immersive
ridiculous.
I can't do full screen because that's what messes it up. Sorry.
family's story tradition.
Let me do
And
this.
as they line up on the grid, they carry the pride of Papa Duck and Mama Duck with them, with every lap, every corner conquered, and every finish line crossed. They honor the legacy of Los Patos Hermanos.
I just think that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
It's really well done.
Love it.
That
I've just got one question.
genius.
I've just
It's
got
not
one
done yet. It's
question.
still
We're
good.
talking about.
It's so
I
good.
know, but we're talking about ducks, but I'm seeing the
That
a
is
bunch
so
of beavers.
genius.
Do they count?
Yeah.
Do they count as platypuses?
I'm guessing just anything that could at one point have flew. I don't know.
Oh man,
Yeah, so there's that.
I have to say, it's, as a team putting in an extra bit of effort and creating a video like that, hands down,
now out.
so well done.
Yeah, which you close your stream, Chris?
And
I'll stop it. Yeah, there we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, that.
to do that, to put that extra bit of work in, I mean, you don't get to see that too often from. I'll call more of the amateur teams. Like you would expect of like Redline or something to do something like that, but for guys to take the initiative, hands flipping down, well done, and to even create a whole story to it. It's got to be episodic now. Now we need the next episodes. That was the precursor, and then we've got to carry on with the story.
I think
That's it. We need a YouTube series. We need a vlog. You got to make a TikTok.
I'll do the voiceover.
I
yeah,
can't remember who I was talking to earlier about it, but like this might seem silly to some, but I just enjoy the fact that we're quite a small racing community when you compare it to LFM and all that shit. But the fact that we've got drivers with such sort of passion for the racing, and they just, I love the banter so much, and they put Miles as a duck in a cockpit, which is funny if you get the context, and just all that, and the liveries as well. Like Mateus has done fantastic liveries for them. I love that. I just think it's so good that they'll just put the effort into it. Yeah, I just enjoy that, and I think that this is why I like the posters that Damien makes and stuff, because I respect the effort of creating something to just have a bit of fun. Like I did a livery. I think I'm the only one that's done a livery reveal video, for fuck's sake, and that took me 5 minutes on Clipchamp, and I know that what Simon put together would have took a fair bit longer.
oh, I dare to object. I did one of the longest livery reveals for the Fed Geisha days back, and that was 3.5 hours of work. Just
No, I'm not lying. Mine took me 15 minutes tops.
right.
Good
Shall we
time,
move
Marco.
on? We've got 2 LNR teams currently listed here. One is LNR Karsten with Peterson and Schmilewski. Top runners certainly, but lacking
Both
a
diamonds,
bit of lacking a bit of strengths to compete overall. LNR Cheese and Wine, Wilfred Robson, known entity.
So,
I guess he's gonna get some more company in his team as well. Then set team has been doing Enduro's Force as official era team. It's a team that I know I don't want to do some dirty jokes here. Let's just head on. Obviously, diplomatic immunity with Thomas Hagen, Samuel Jardine, Lewis Knight, and C.Wall. It's going to be interesting to see how Samuel performs, but I think overall, with everyone in their respective class, you've got top runners that can go for podium. So,
so we're the reason for that we're the stewards. So for anyone that like, we're all stewards that sit there on a Sunday and a Monday night, like tearing incident. So diplomatic community is just a bit of fun. Yeah. So we actually still need to sort of finish that team off, but I should be in an LNR team. Technically, I should be in an LNR team, but It's an ERA league. It's a bit of fun. I'll do diplomatic community.
Right, let's move on. We've got one of the proper themed racing teams. To all three of you, do you follow the livery chat somewhat closely?
Keep an eye
Yes.
out on it.
Who's the
and,
person?
I was.
Who's the person who has created the most liveries recently on order?
I'd say
Yes.
Skirt.
Skirt.
Skirt or Matthias. But they've been doing
Pick one.
bits between them.
Pick one.
I'm gonna say Skirt.
I
Skirt's
pick
made mine.
Matthias.
Skirt's my
Yeah.
boy.
Stephen.
I'd have to go Mateus. I've seen Mateus pop up more often in Skirt.
It is Matthias. What is the most repeating theme that you've seen?
It's always the learner driver sort of aspect. It's either the driving school learner driver that he's done. That's
Yep.
I remember
He's done.
going and
Let me help
going
you.
and sitting with a BMW with that.
He has
Yeah, that was
six.
my ace car.
He has six different. Not I don't know if completely different cars, but he has done 6 liveries in an overarching theme. What was that theme?
Cyberpunk. I'm gonna say Cyberpunk.
Yep.
Or Cyberpunk,
Yep.
something like that.
Yeah,
Cyberpunk.
correct.
Cyberpunk.
And this is his racing team. So Matthias created the cyber racing team. It sees Matthias and Xin Young in Iron. Both are running for podiums.
Oh, okay.
Matthew East and Dennis
Mhm.
Hoog for bronze, and Shaunu for bronze. I would say every one of you is capable of podium and bronze. Wouldn't say easy, but you know, with the certain amount of luck and the usual grid penalties that people get, not grid penalties, but success penalties, you're in for the
Hey.
fight. No, just joking.
There's a couple of names in
Boy,
that.
And-
I'm not that
team
slow.
in my hot
And
takes.
there's one name in there that I fear. It's the lost one. Server 1 driver.
Tamo.
Say his
Yep,
name.
you've got it. Tamo.
Tamo, yeah, he's quick, the boy.
Tamo.
And you know what I like about him as well. Like he, we were doing Bathurst practice. I can't remember what car we were just fucking about one night, and he was doing like 208s at Bathurst, which, as you all know, isn't a great time. And he was like, "Right, I'm just going to learn," and he's now doing like 204s. And just because his mentality, the mentality of him is just, I know what I'm not good at, and I can do better. So
Yep.
he's so good at transferring knowledge into his own driving, which is that. Yeah, he's gonna be. He's great. My hot takes. He's one to watch for goal.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
bet he doesn't really stay in golf for too long. I bet he's one of those candidates for the Euro effect. You know, like spiraling out because of competitiveness. Just coming
Yeah.
to terms with himself and then just, you know, like increasing the payload of hours and getting quicker.
The only thing he's got to do though, and he will know that he's just got to stop flipping Porsche Cup cars upside down. Once he's got that, he'll be okay.
Just needs lady luck. That's
Hey,
the one
I've just
thing.
seen his chat pop
He's
up.
He's-
You're all right.
He's really quick. But what I've noticed is
He's fast.
he's either got lady luck in the pits with him, that's going, or he's got Murphy sitting with that 13 spanner and that number 10 socket that has had an hour with the vehicle. It's been that type of thing. If he can keep on that, if he can hit that luck, well, I think there's a lot of people that are going to be going and scratching their heads big time.
Yeah.
He also knows how to make the car 6 feet wide.
Right.
I'm just going to the toilet, Chance. I'll be back in just a moment.
No worries. So let's move on. We've got Bit Shift Racing. Couple of drivers once again, Dennis, on your server. The first one is probably the most important person in this community, and no, it's not me. It's the one who enabled and set up the license system.
So it's not Dennis.
No, it's not Dennis. But Dennis should know who we're talking about.
Definitely not me. Sure, yeah.
Who's it? Silver Driver.
Tetley.
No.
Surely it's Tetley.
No. Like Tutley is
What?
beheld and dearly beheld. But no. It's Isaac. Isaac Jordan.
Oh, Biz, yeah.
Shout out to our web developer.
Isaac.
And he fields the team of the BitShift Racing with him in silver. And I think he had in silver a couple of podiums. I don't know exactly. It will depend, obviously, how the new population on the server will play out. But he might be in contention. He got two Tadas of Wukol, known entity, but perhaps he needs a bit of luck to really get in the high points on gold. I don't remember him being too close to the podium. Jeffrey Becker in bronze and Chris Stanzer in bronze. So once again, runners for the top half of the field. Gonna be interesting.
Wait a minute, wasn't Chris Stancer, wasn't he silver?
I think...
Or is that someone else I'm thinking of?
Nah, he might have been silver, but I think he dropped. So...
Oh well, that's our championship chances in the mud.
Then moving on, we've
I'm back.
welcome back. Then we've
Thank you.
got the team name that you need to recognize if you're a Server 1 driver. 2ID Racing.
Oh, Jenkins. They two
What
two
team?
ID has proven themselves rather well in endurance and in sprint racing. That is a flippin' formidable team. It doesn't matter who is lined up with who. That's one I'm going to keep a very close eye on because they know
Glenn's
how to
rock.
formation fly when need to.
Yeah, Glenn is very fast as well on his day. One of the quicker drivers in the split. And they've got big Les show on the livery, so that's an automatic win for me as well.
And then
Really
obviously
playing in the tail, Chris.
2ID fields Glenn Smith as diamond, Liam Smith as gold, and Finlay Gamble now also gold. I think both Liam and Finlay have good chances for a podium. And we are left with the last team, and that is the personal nightmare of Stephen, which will be my team. I have gathered nearly almost every Lamborghini driver on the Server 1 to form one team, driving in the exact same livery apart from color highlights.
Have you seen it, Stephen? Have you looked? Have you?
I sat-
The livery,
I
it's the
sat
same
when-
fucking car.
Well,
Yes,
let me.
I-
Let me.
Well, Christian was like, he was busy going and adjusting colors. And he's like, now you can see. It's like, you know what? I am just gonna say, Lamborghini. I'm just gonna call one name and leave it as that because to go
Yeah.
and look from afar while everyone's racing together. I mean, 2ID had that at one point.
They have
Yeah, they
different
did.
cars. That's a different story.
To a point. I mean, even L&R at one point had the same Aston Martins, and I picked up the phone after ERA race, got hold of Paul Fenter at 1 o'clock in the morning here in South Africa, climbed into him, and I said, "Change your fucking car. I'm done with the same livery.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah,
tell
we
the
have had that.
difference."
And now,
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
at this. We've
This
got
is terrible.
Nicolas Parois.
It's blank on the stream, friends. I don't know what's happening. It's blank on the stream.
It's blank. Sorry. Okay,
Yeah.
then let me just talk you through. So you've got Paroy for us in gold, driving the 79 with orange highlights. It's a red and black Milwaukee livery. Myself with dark blue highlights, which is usually the air intake on the roof, the end plates of the spoiler, the rear bar, like Lamborghini drivers will know what I mean. the air fins and the mirrors, so not too much. Martin Spitzer in platinum, myself in platinum, Martin Spitzer with green highlights, Milano James in diamond with pink highlights, and we've got Nico Lawrence in gold with what is that? Petrol highlights. So yeah, I'm very sorry in retrospective, but at the same time, well, it is what it is, and I just absolutely think it will be quite a thing to see those cars on the grid.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get
You know
Stephen like a little spotter's guide, aren't we? Just for who's who.
You know the usual running joke of, and the red car goes around the corner. That is literally what it's gonna be. The red car followed by
Yeah.
the red car.
Pretty much, mate. Pretty much.
All right,
I think someone's overtaken someone else. I don't know. I can't tell.
all right. Let's
No, the red car passed the red
let's
car
move
in
on.
turn
So,
one.
as I say, there are a bunch of 3 spots still available. So if you are listening in, watching, and you don't have a team just yet, you can either form one quite easily on the website or pick one of those spots, head over to the teams. You will be able to see this on your home screen when you go into your driver's hub on the website. Right, let's do the tour that we actually came here to do. To cut this a bit, to cut this a little bit shorter, but get everyone's voice, I'm gonna give you the track and the condition, and in 2 to maximum 3 sentences, tell me what you expect of it. So, round 1, Zolder, dry conditions. Dennis.
Turn 1 pile up, or just everyone going off at turn 1?
Okay, understandable. Right, Chris.
Was older. I think we'll get further, but first chicane, serious cock-ups, track limits galore. It's a really tough track to have as your opener. So it's going to be decided by who can avoid the track limits
3 sentences.
and who can race sort of side by side clean.
Yeah, but I absolutely agree with you. Stephen, Zolder.
So, I'm gonna go slipstream, close running,
Yeah.
patience, final lap dash.
Mm.
That's what I expect to see coming.
I'm going to keep
Okay.
I'm going to keep my opinion out of this, but I absolutely agree on that very particular point with Chris, and that is it's going to be very hard to drive in traffic. You have enough corners where you rely not on the braking marker, especially into the second chicane, but on the skid marks, and you won't see them with a car in front of you. It's going to... I say the second 6 chicane will have worse pile-ups than the first one. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and no one agrees that all of the server 2 drivers are just going to miss turn 1, which is definitely going to happen.
Now you'll make it. You'll probably be overcautious all the way through to the first chicane, and then as C.Fengler sort of hinted at, you'll be like, "Oh, we've got through that," and then all hell will break loose, and then second chicane, you'll just go everywhere.
You're forgetting that we have Hater in our server.
Oh, there's a lot of personal offense there.
Good point. Good point.
Right. Moving on.
Shameless plug to Hater.
Moving on to round 2.
Moving on.
Round 2 is going to feature Nürburgring in the wet. Dennis, what is your expectation of it?
Ooh. Skip me for now.
Chris?
Well, it's Nerb's GP. It's a track everyone knows well. I'm not actually expecting absolute carnage from this one. I think for server 1, because we'll have had such a hard time in the opener, I actually think Nürburgring wet will be one of the well-behaved races this season. I think.
Stephen?
Interesting pit stop strategies. Wet means you're not using too much fuel. You got to try and get into the box. When are you going to do it? And how long can you keep it going? I think that's going to be a race that comes down to a pit stop strategy wins. knowing when you're going to do it. It's either going to be a serious undercut or a serious overcut.
Mm.
It's not going to be all halfway.
That's
Dennis,
a very good point.
Dennis, once again, any ideas?
You know, I may actually agree with Chris that just hard racing.
You can't agree with
think
me when
Nerves
you
can
got
actually-
Yeah. But Chris said it's going to be
No,
clean
okay,
race.
it's just-
But probably to add on this, and this is something that came to my mind as well, it might be the track that we're going to see some of the most action upon because of the confidence of drivers. A lot of drivers have driven this track repetitively, and wet usually leads to a bit more cautious behavior, which will allow a lot of more fights to come out unharmed. Right. And as if that wasn't already a combination that you sometimes should probably fear, we're going to go into Mount Panorama and Dusk for round 3. Dennis.
Dig my grave.
Chris.
Dennis, just as a point, I've said I'm going to coach you at Mount Pano, and I'm sticking to that. We'll
Yes,
sort some time out.
Yes, I am taking you upon that offer before the race starts.
I'm going to say right now, this is the one I'm looking forward to. It's going to be fucking beautiful on the replays. Mount Panorama at dusk, golden hour, chef's kiss. Yeah, we're going to have some issues. Yellow flag problems is going to be first, and I'm going to come to that later in the podcast. So my predictions are yellow flag problems, unexpected winner. So someone's going to win this race that we're not going to predict is going to win it.
Stephen.
All right.
I have to agree with Chris there. I'm going to be instead of talking about crashes, I think we're going to see some very interesting overtakes, some very brave overtakes. And we're also going to see someone that's going to break the camel's back. They're going to be able to just pull a rabbit out of the hat, launch themselves to the front, and become that spanner in the works for someone's championship very, very quickly, or is going to become a championship contender.
Then, to follow this up, we're going to head into a race which is going to be interesting from the streamer's side of view. Streamer's viewpoint, yeah. Suzuka at night.
Good luck, Steve.
Dennis.
You're not going to see shit.
Well, my last remembrance of Suzuka wasn't entirely positive, so
Redemption.
yeah, redemption for myself, but I mean, I think that's going to be another track where it's just going to be quite a bit of hard racing going on. Probably, most likely not very clean, but definitely hard racing. So I'm gonna say I won't hit a wall. Yes, that's 4 words, but I don't care.
Okay, Chris. Suzuka at night. What comes to mind?
Suzuka's one of those tracks that you get or you don't. There's some drivers that really get it and vibe with it and can drive it blindfolded. So I think similar to Nürburgring, it's going to be mostly uneventful. There's not going to be any absolute major carnage. I think it'll be decided on potential strategy call.
Stephen.
So yeah, there'll be a bold move somewhere in the race that will decide it.
Stephen, your dark viewpoint.
Okay, so it's definitely going to come down to strategy. I can tell you in the commentary box it's going to be taking the light, and there goes another red car and another red car, just to see what's going on. But I think it's going to be Suzuka's always lent itself to strategy, and it's lent itself to patience. I don't think we're going to see major overtakes or major upsets unless you've got Paul Fenter and Mythe Musa together with one another. Then we're going to recreate Prost versus Senna. And then that's about that, really. I think it's going to be it's going to be a maintenance point. It's going to be a maintenance in the points race.
I'm going to give you I'm gonna give you two takes on this. Take one. It's gonna flip the championship upside down because I think Suzuka has quite the potential, same as Mount
Because
Panorama.
it's the middle race.
Yeah, to turn a few things around because, as Chris said, you either vibe with the track and you get it, and the darkness doesn't make it easier on you. So strong novice that usually tend to really like Suzuka, and that combination will really, like shine. At the same time, other people who have previously really performed might drop. Second guess onto that track is we're gonna see very tight battles in the first 20 and the last 20% of the race. It's just something that Suzuka is very typical of. The middle is quite uneventful, but the start is for a long time very, very packed because you just have somewhere a trained fucking conductor holding the fucking train together on that track, especially with the S's and everything. And in the final stages of the race, I think tire wear is going to play a big role. So you might have, depending on the strategy, late encounters again.
Can I quickly add something on Suzuka from Server 2? Last time when I drove Suzuka, I had an Italian pit crew, and they didn't do my pit stop.
Oh.
When I came in the first time. So now I have a German pit crew, which I hope will do their job. And secondly, I think, I mean, don't take my word for it because I don't remember exactly, but I think it was Robert who slowed down on the last lap. And yeah,
I know what you mean.
that's all I need to say. I think that was Robert, but I don't remember exactly.
Yeah. So during the Stewarding stream, which is available on my Twitch and YouTube channel somewhere, I'm sure we'll get links. That was reviewed, but it was good fun.
Oh, lovely.
Right, moving
that
on.
Steven's got to go soon, by the way, so I don't know how long he's got, but we might have to fly through this next bit
I'll
just to get his...
go through the tracks. All good.
All right, so the next one is the 5th round. And I think it has been picked on personal offense of myself, and that is Red Bull Ring in cold conditions. I'm going to start this one up. Track limits, countless. More crashes than necessary. And tire strategy deciding the race. That's my 3 takes on this track.
Interesting takes.
Bengals will suffer.
Oh, yeah, well, that's an easy one.
There goes a Lamborghini off the track, and another Lamborghini off the track.
At least there's plenty of runoff area. It's fine. It'll be okay. I don't know. I think Red Bull Rings. It's quite. It should be okay on tires. The thing is, you can induce a lot of slide at Red Bull Ring, so that can absolutely churn your tires if you're not careful. But if you know how to drive the circuit, it's fine on tires. So you shouldn't actually lose pace through your stint. My predictions for Red Bull Ring: someone's going to smash the pit lane barrier by coming in too hot. One person will do that at least, and just fucking smash in.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll have a turn 1 incident, but we will have a turn 4 incident.
Oh yeah.
The curse of Red Bull Ring,
yeah.
everyone knows
For
the
sure.
first 2 major braking zones are the ones where you normally have accidents and they'll behave themselves. And then as soon as you get out of turn 3, technically, everyone will just gloves off. And I think we'll have a turn 4 issue. But I like Red Bull Ring. I enjoy it. I think it's a really good track for racing. Like, it's underrated for me. I know it was unpopular when it came out in the track vote, but I like it.
Stephen, by the way, I have to run to the toilet really.
I'll cover until you're back. Enjoy yourself, thanks. Have fun. Stephen, Red Bull Ring,
if you
cold.
Shake it 3 times, it's more than plain.
More than 3 times. If he comes back smiling, we know what's been going on.
Can we just give an honorable mention to Miles in the Discord chat saying Fengler will get punted by, well, quote unquote, punted by David.
Oh, so David, as a not being the victim anymore, is actually going to be the perpetrator of violence in season 13. That is
No,
a hot take.
it depends
No,
because
because
it's
like
gonna,
we. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I was gonna say it depends because if it's you're in trouble with the stewards, it's gonna be no. I attempted to brake as hard as I can, and he just moved under braking and happened to be there at the exact moment. But Sherbet, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't. I've made the corner, but oh man, it's he just moved. He came out of nowhere. He was like a tree that just jumped across.
So,
Depends who
what
you
do you
are,
think is
which
gonna,
side.
what do you think is going to happen Red Bull Ring this season, knowing how
Red
the
Bull
racing there normally goes?
Red Bull Ring reminds me of very much like what we had here in South Africa, Midval. I absolutely hated the track purely on the fact if you were in front of the train, if you were the leading car, by the time you get to the corner, you're shot. It's the same as Kota. If you're the leading car, you're not going to win. So I think we're going to have a different winner. If anyone is within half a second of a leader, we're going to have a different winner. Because if you're in first, you're not going to win this race unless you make a 1.5 second gap.
You know what the key thing about Red Bull Ring's going to be is that it's a short lap, so that like 15-second penalty is going to have a big impact here. I think it's the shortest track on the calendar.
I think that yes, it is, and I think we're also going to see. It's going to be one of the tracks that everyone's going to have to really push themselves out of their comfort zone. That if something happens when those penalties rock up and you get that drive through or whatever the case is, you need to take a deep breath, get back in the car, and get going. So even if you get that disconnect, you need to go, especially how late it is into the season. Because the first three is where you set yourself. The middle is a maintain. Red Bull Ring is make or break. You are now either going to score big for your points or you're going to lose it. Finished.
Yeah, that's where you start really caring about your results because at this point, and something we've not mentioned yet, there's a drop round in the season. So there's 7 races, but only your top 6 scores are going to count. So once you hit the track at Red Bull Ring, you've got an idea whether you've already had your drop round or not. So if you've had a bad Nürburgring or you've absolutely smashed it into the wall at Mount Panorama, you've got the added pressure of knowing you've got to perform for the last 3 races. I had that. That happened to me because my Imola was trash. So I knew I had to absolutely deliver in the last races of the season to have any hope of being anywhere in Diamond. So yeah, that's going to be an added pressure as well. Good point. So we've got
Red Bull Ring's not going to be a drop round.
So we're going to be going from the cold Austrian mountains, i.e. the home of Martin Spitzer, all the way over to Italy and a very hot Imola, a track which doesn't like tyres at the best of times, and it's going to be Sculpture. So, Danny, did you drive Imola last season?
I did not.
Was that one of the 3 races? It wasn't one of the 3 races. Are you going to drive it this season?
I am, unfortunately, and I'm not looking forward to it.
If you said no to that, I'm not teaching you Mount Panorama.
Oh, fuck off.
Do you, bearing in mind that Imola is going to be the penultimate race, what do you think is going to happen in Server 2, knowing the drivers that you share the track with?
I fear for my life, for everyone's life actually. But I just hope that Miles gets survives turn 1 this time.
Yeah.
Also goodbye tires.
Yeah. That it's going to be strategy.
Like it's going to be scorching.
So Imola, can overtake at Imola. It's not impossible, but it's not easy. So you've got to set your moves up at Imola like 3 or 4 corners in advance. You can't just jump on an opportunity 9 times out of 10. So I think a lot of strategy calls will be made to maybe pit earlier, try and stretch it on tyres. And because it's a hot race and it's so pace dependent at Imola, my personal opinion is it's all going to be based on if you're following another car within a second or so and you decide to pit and they don't, that'll decide it. Because that's going to be
Probably,
so
most
powerful.
likely. Yep.
Imola has another.
Fengler, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back, huh? Imola is gonna
Hey, he's
have.
got a smile.
It's gonna have another problem there. Imola is very similar in terms of overtakes to Mount Panorama, and what I mean is, it's one of those races where when you keep it clean, you move forward. But it's so easy to do one of those major mistakes on this track. Like you said earlier, consistency is very hard. Like in Imola, you feel like you're driving the exact same lap, and you are easily 5/10 down. Just because you've looked the wrong way at a curb. It's really wicked.
Yep.
But yeah, Steve.
I think, based on Imola last season, it's going to be a close dogfight. Because what we had last season in Server 1 was the race was a bit hectic at the start. Middle, it kind of opened up, but towards the end, you had you had groups all together. And that created concertina effects as people were working their way through the grid. Christian, you had that where you actually gained 3 positions by slotting yourself in between some of the fast guys. And as everyone was just mining out for, I think it was Christoph Peterson and the rest, you managed to move up in this little train because no one was expecting. So I think Imola, despite the conditions, is going to be close racing, and we're going to see some proper smart driving moves. It's not going to be based in the pits. It's going to be who's able to just put themselves there in someone's blind spot. I mean, that race in Imola, we saw drivers take their first win. That worked well.
Yeah.
We saw
Mr.
drivers
Maroney,
doing.
tip of the
There
hat.
we go. We saw close racing right to the end. We also saw where the fueling, where guys worked out their fueling, but that one lap where they used 0.1 more by just trying to fight through traffic, goes and backs people off. I think Imola is going to be a proper banger of a race. It's going to have us busy. In the commentary box for Server 1, Server 2, we're gonna be up and down through that field. You never get bored.
And
I
then
will
It's
also
always
say
pocket
that
race.
traditionally, Imola is one of the busiest tracks for a steward.
yeah, and then we are.
Traditionally, it is.
But then again, are we gonna do this first off, I believe, race that hasn't been done like this previously, and that is gonna be a non-British track since season 4. We had a tradition to really run British tracks, so you can talk like we make like 4 seasons per year roughly, and 9 seasons back that was established. So we look at a history of over 2 years of racing, and we're not gonna go back to a British track for the final, but we're gonna go to Barcelona, 90 minutes, mixed conditions, anyone's guess. Like literally, I'm gonna say anyone's guess. It can be, in my eyes, a race that absolutely turns not absolutely turns things around, but you're probably gonna have again those groups of drivers close to each other with the potential for the overall win. This will be certainly the deciding race where you have to do more than just car control, more than just setup building, because you have that element of strategy even more than anywhere else in there. You need to be calculating your next move, you need to be calculating in the weather, the forecast that is coming, and when is the right moment to pit? When are you staying out? When do you keep dry tires in the wet? Such things that just simply make those mixed condition races with 90 meters super special. Dennis,
And it's always a challenge, like in the mixed races, because you can't practice for it, and you don't know.
you
So
try
you've just got to. And you try, and you prepare as diligently as you want. But the amount of times we've come into a season finale with what we think is already an established order, and it's just gone completely the other way because the conditions haven't worked out. Sorry, Stephen, because I know Stephen's got to get off to work. He's busy saving lives tonight, so I'll let him
Yeah.
jump in.
Yeah.
It's all good. I think Barcelona, from a commentary perspective, is gonna be amazing because what it's gonna be is that final round. It's gonna be electrifying. It's a long track with a long time you're gonna spend on the circuit. 90 minutes is no joke. You're going to be stressed out of your mind at the start. No one's gonna get proper sleep. Everyone's gonna be going through their setup, and you're gonna feel that tension start to build in the discords and the driver's briefing. It's gonna sit there. That air is gonna be around. No one's gonna show their hand at first. It's gonna be all keeping playing cards to the chest. It's also gonna be that moment where you're gonna see the drivers that are wanting to hold their top spot are going to do two things. They're either going to drive safely and they're going to just protect themselves, or they're going to be forced out to push themselves. I go back to Brands Hatch. Ernest Lundbriggs, no chance of winning in terms of the championship. Christoph Peterson, champion, running in it. Christoph had to fight past Mahayath Musa. He didn't want to give him an inch. He said, if you're going to get ahead of me, you earn it. Ernest Lundbriggs caught up. And it was nose to tail racing to the end. That in an interview right at the end, you can go back and hear it. Chris was huffing and puffing. He was caught out. It suddenly, he was forced out of a gap. He was forced out of that moment. Go to Lewis Knight. Same thing, where you could hear that hope of I'm gonna get it, suddenly just like getting turned. It is that finale to a story that everyone is gonna sit there waiting for it. And as a commentator, there's nothing better. I'm getting chills just even picturing, because I know, based on the season, based on the drivers, going in looking at what's happening, it's going to come down to the final race. And this season, with the layouts we got, there's going to be a different crown put on someone's head. Whoever's going to hold the crown is going to be working that absolute backside off in all of the tiers. I think so. I think so. Look, if you think of it, you got Zolder, you got Nürburgring in the wet, you got Panorama in the dusk, you've got Suzuka at night, you got Red Bull in the cold, you got Imola in the hot. Each of those are going to provide different winners. Barcelona is going to be that linchpin.
Chris,
I've got to back my boy. I've got to say Chris for the win. I've just got to do it.
Technically, you would be right, but I think you have to stick with Steven for one reason. Every one of those tracks in this certain car, track, and condition combination is prone to driver mistakes, and those driver mistakes don't only have to come from the driver themselves, but anyone around them.
Yeah, I know. And look, I hope for the sake of good racing that's the case. I'm gonna say I think my hot take for Barca is I think it's all but decided before we get there.
No, that 40 plus cars in server 1 alone. Server 2, same. There is no room for error. If everyone stays on, if you have 30 plus cars going and driving as hard as they can with the amount of tracks they have concertinas. You've got the shortest track on the calendar and the shortest track, one of the shortest tracks in the sim itself, Bar Brands Hatch. You have got conditions that are going to hammer on. You've got drivers that, and the final race went and pushed the multiple time champion to his limit, now bringing in teammates into that very same class. That's where the question's going to come in.
That's a good
It's
one.
no
And
longer.
you're not
That's a good
wrong.
one. We
You're
are-
not wrong.
We're underestimating the impact that teams might have. But
Good point.
before we ever push on, I would like to hear Dennis as a completely different outlook, because he does probably have something else in mind as a Server 2 driver when it comes to mixed races.
Well, I actually have to somewhat agree with Stephen. From speaking for Server 2 here, especially in bronze where I am, the field is mad close. Like I can call names like Mad East, Shanu, Adrian, Hader. Like I can keep going, right? But that's just some of the names. Me and shameless plug, but me included. We have all such similar pace, and we're all so close to each other. I can definitely see like bronze especially this whole season is just gonna be one big fight, and if there's gonna be a title fight at the last race, then Barca is probably the one to do it, and mixed conditions will make it even more spicy, and that's where most likely even if we're fighting for the team championship, I would say probably the gloves are gonna come off. Because I can actually I don't know why, but I can actually somewhat imagine a 5-way title fight if all goes well in
Really?
bronze. Easy.
So,
Yeah,
how
almost
do you
like-
guys in Server 2 normally cope with the mixed condition stuff? Because I know we in Server 1, we have a little bit of a different, I don't want to say mindset because that's disrespectful, but I just think we approach those races differently. So what's the approach generally like in Server 2 to these finales?
So like what I've done personally, and I don't have any clue on doing setups and stuff, so I really don't know. I didn't do the mixed race in season 11 or whatever. Yeah, I think season 11. I couldn't do that one because I was away. I did do Brands Hatch, and I've for me, and like I said, I don't know setups, but I just made a 50-50 choice of either choosing a fully wet setup to be safe just in case, or take a dry setup, and that would be like risky. I think I ended up choosing for the wet setup. I think, and I just ran with it. I just ran with it honestly, and it never rained.
And yeah,
It was just bone dry the whole race.
Well,
So that's at least from my side. I can't speak for the others. I can't.
we'll see what really
fair enough.
what really brings, because there's the element of surprise in the mixed races. And
I
as
just
an,
wondered how you prepared.
as announced, we really have to let go now of Stephen. Stephen, it was a pleasure having you on here, and provided we do this again, I think you're a good talking person, and we would love to have you again. So, cheers for your time, cheers for your perspective and outlook, and I think
Thanks,
speaking
Stephen.
not only speaking for us forever, but for everyone listening or watching this back, cheers for the entertainment.
Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate it. And keep up the amazing work to all the drivers. Have fun. And yeah, like always, good morning,
Good night.
good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody.
Cheers to you, Paul.
Thanks,
Ciao,
Stephen. Take care, man. If
There-
anyone else feels like they want to come up and talk, by the way, just let us know. We're not guaranteeing you will, but I know I can see hater, so you're not coming up. We're not
Right. We've got two more topics to cover. Of one of them has been basically covered already through a lot of the stuff we talked about. But one of the really important parts that we need to touch upon, because perhaps some of the people missed it, is the part of rule changes. Our stewards have sat down and touched on a lot of lessons that we learned throughout the last season. And Chris, you've been involved in this, so just give us a quick rundown on the major key points that are going to change for season 13.
So yeah, I say involved in it. It's been a bit of a learning curve, and we covered it in a recent stewarding session. So if you want a more in-depth version of what I'm about to talk about, go and check that out, because I go into it in a bit more depth. But in short, we're looking at just clarifications on certain rules. So blue flags, we're effectively saying that if you're getting a blue flag and you're fighting with another car for position, you're not expected to just dump out the way. The lapping car has to find the way around you. That's sort of applicable in all cases. There's been some issues where, not in our server, so not in ARA, but other servers have experienced cheating, where it's been grip hacks or it's been whatever. So we're asking all drivers during qualifying and race sessions to have telemetry logged. So you can do that by going into your setup, electronics, and then it's telemetry laps at the bottom, and that'll allow you to log laps. You only need to keep it for that race week, I think.
Yeah.
Or did we say the season? We're not. I guarantee if you go into that file, there'll be gigs of it. So go in and clear it out now, because you'll save a lot of hassle. We're not expecting anyone in ERA to do this. We're not, but it's happened in other communities. So if we don't take a stance early and say we want this to happen, we might as well enable it. That's what we're doing. If you exploit a game glitch, so there isn't any that I know about anyway, then again that's punishable. Because of the teams being such a big thing this season, we don't want what we call collusion to be an issue. So we don't want you to be holding up other drivers on behalf of a teammate, anything like that. Please don't do it. It's not fair. It's not F1. Don't be a dickhead, basically. We have the right to request Motec files and all that sort of stuff. So again, if you're up to no good and we can't get data files off you, you'll be gone. I'm sorry, but we've got to take a stand. So blue flags, just to cap this off. So there's really just a couple of main things about flags really that were an issue last season. So we want to cover that off. So it's always the lapping car's responsibility to pass cleanly. That hasn't changed. If you're a blue flagged driver, just remain predictable, stay on the racing line, and you'll be fine. Make sure your braking and acceleration inputs are predictable as well, because we've had that before. You're able to move off the racing line if you want to, but do so on a straight. And one thing, Fengs, I was going to say is during the drivers' briefings, if you're okay with it, one of the stewards will join that driver's briefing and cover things like where you can safely let someone go, any specific pit entry, exit, entry requirements, that sort of thing. But nothing sort of major. And then yellow flags was the question mark after the stewards meeting. So anyone that watched the stewards stream will remember that yellow flags were a bit of a problem, because we had a race at Bathurst and we've got another one coming up, and I think Zolder's going to be a problem for this as well. When there's a yellow flag, people don't slow, and you will go full steam into the scene of an accident and cause even more accidents because of it. So we're asking for common sense. That's it. So if there's a yellow flag flying and you know you're coming towards an accident, we expect you to drive with caution, and we expect you to slow down. We don't expect you to stop and like wait or anything like that. But this brings into the question of like overtaking under yellows as well. So if you're in a section where yellows are present and you have to slow down to avoid an accident, we don't expect you to be overtaken in that. And if you do, that'll be an issue.
I think the two words to drop here are really self-preservance. Like you not only do this for anyone on track, you do this for yourself and not to ruin your race. And the second thing is, faulty behavior leads to shared guilt. So if you crash into an existing pile-up because you didn't let up on yellow flags,
you'll get
driving.
You'll get creamed.
Yeah, you're gonna get the books thrown at you. So keep that in mind.
And I can tell you, as you could probably tell by me already, I'm one of the more vocal ones in the stewards meeting. And if there's anyone in there, it's usually me or Lewis shouting at each other with Darius calling us swear words in the background. That's normally how they go. I've been campaigning so long for better driving standards under yellow flags. I will be coming down on people hard for that as well. Because what we can't have map panorama again. We can't do it. What we actually witnessed at map panorama can't happen again with people just full steam going into yellow flag zones. It ruined 6 or 7 races. We can't do it. So that's why that rule's there, basically. Just drive with common sense.
Right.
When are we getting blood urine test? I don't know, mate. We can do that as long as it's not alcohol content flow, because I'd fail right now.
Right. I think the last
wasn't there?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, go on. Wasn't there like when I read the updated rules? Wasn't there also a minor rule added for unnecessary / excessive flashing that is now punishable?
Yeah. A bit more of a minor addition though, so I didn't really deem it worthy. But yeah, and it's not fueled by anything in particular. It's more we're just trying to promote a more friendly environment, and not one where poor sportsmanship, for want of a better word, is sort of promoted. So if you're just sat behind the car and you're just pressing the flash button on your steering wheel, we'll have a word. Basically, like, we don't like it, and I don't think it's fair to make an overtake happen by just flashing the person endlessly. And it's honestly, it's not really because we think it's a poor practice. We just think it's probably leaning towards poor sportsmanship more than anything else. That's really all it is. And it all boils down to the fact that we're an academy. Now, is this more of a server 2 thing than a server 1? Probably. But then again, you don't see it in server 1. You watch the server 1 streams and watch how many times people flash. I can guarantee through the entire season, you can count it on one hand.
Nah, but the difference is that you usually know when you're battling one of those drivers that you don't easily stress them out.
So it's just us. That rule, Dennis, is really just us, just trying to enforce better practices. So we're not gonna kick someone off the server for flashing. That's not gonna happen.
No, of course not.
You'll have a bit of a you'll have a conversation basically, and just be like, look,
like obviously you don't want, like, obviously, like, especially for server 2 where you get new people coming in who are like probably somewhat expecting of us, like how we behave ourselves and what we stand for as a community. We try to teach people stuff here.
That's right.
We're not trying to be dicks, especially not on Sundays where we try to be professional racers and just not be dicks. So that's more what that comes about. Like, you don't want to see stuff like that. It's unnecessary.
All right.
Excessive shouting as well. You know what? We need to talk about that, but now's not the time. We'll do that separately.
Yeah. Right. Moving to the very last topic for
Yeah.
today. We've really stretched this already. I remember the starting talks here. We're gonna do 1 hour or less. We're at 2 hours 14
yeah,
now.
right.
Wait, when you said 5 minutes for season 13 or whatever, I was like, nah, that'll be half an hour at least. Sorry, carry on.
and we left
This
out
is why.
all the data stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Right.
We did, yeah. We've not touched on any of that.
So, cheers, Chris, for that insight onto the rule changes. Fairly important stuff in there. The last things we're left with are the actual hot takes, but we've done a lot of them already. So I just have basically 3 questions to ask both of you. Question 1. Where do you think the biggest crash is going to happen within the whole season? Server 1
Ooh.
or server 2?
Dennis, do you want to go first or do you want me to?
Oh.
I'm
Server one
happy
or
to.
Oy.
Or server 2
Or we just
obviously
both
has
say
to
it
say
at the same
server
time.
1. Server 1 says server 2.
Dude, I'll go into corners. I'll say what corner it might be. I'll be wrong, but I'll say it.
Okay, go ahead.
So, I think the worst we're gonna get this season is going to be Imola. Again.
Yeah, okay.
I think this time it'll be second chicane, not first,
Yeah.
because the worst last season was first chicane. This it'll be second chicane, and I think it'll be server 2 that'll do a fucking just diabolical. Someone will just send it up the inside, and it'll cause absolute fucking mayhem going into that. I was tempted to say Mount Panorama, but with it being dark, I think everyone will be. With it being sort of dusk, I think everyone will pay like extra care.
They'll be extra
So
careful.
that's my prediction.
Dennis.
You know, I was gonna go for Mount Panorama, but I'm gonna have to actually somewhat slightly agree with you that there's gonna be a big crash on Imola. But you being optimistic and saying second chicane, I'm actually gonna go for the first. Because that place is honestly just so tight. It's so tight. With
I've
that
seen
many
in the
cars
chat
and
people talking about Monza. Imola's worse. As a steward, Imola is worse than Monza. Yeah, it just is.
My take.
And I have to agree, it's gonna be server 2.
My take on this is also server 2, but on a completely different track. It's gonna be corner 4.
Ooh, go on.
Corner 4 on
Okay.
Zolder. If you, it's the
Oh.
right-hander before you go
Ooh.
into the straight towards the chicane. And I say this because
Oh,
I say this.
Spicy take.
I say this because I've seen shit go down there. It's probably gonna be the first
Yeah.
or the second lap,
Y-
and throughout a
you think
battle,
people are gonna send it?
yes, you're gonna have the problem that somebody is probably on the inside and it's not given enough room. Gonna hit the inside curbing and then starts flying across the track, collecting up to 3 cars and then completely stuffing the exits through it. Everybody's expecting that even with a yellow flag, you might get through, so you're probably gonna have a 5+ pile up in that very corner. It's very specific, but I've seen shit.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
I can
asking
actually
for
somewhat
specifics.
imagine
We
that.
can be vague as fuck if we want, but predictions are no fun if they're not specific. So we might as well be specific. So I know I like that, and I agree as well. I think that
Yeah, I can.
it's an
I can
underrated
imagine
corner
that.
at Zolder because the braking point for every car is just the way every car takes that corner is a bit different. So that could be an impact.
All right, then I would like to get your hot take on what will be the total amount of sign-ups of both servers combined at the end of the season. What do you think? What kind of number are we gonna reach?
What are we on now?
What are we on now?
115.
Are we talking sign-ups or active racers?
Sign-ups.
127.
Okay. Dennis?
I'm gonna be very optimistic. 130.
Okay, I'm gonna do one even higher. I say we've got 8 weeks of racing ahead. And we're probably gonna see more, and I definitely say more than 140 sign-ups in the end.
It depends on what
Okay.
mood Damien's in. Like Damien can make and break this for me.
Yeah, Damien
Let's
can.
see.
Yeah.
I'm being serious. Like, you think how long I joined ERA before it was ERA? It used to be a group called ARC or something daft like that. I've been with ERA since the beginning, and I've never known a growth like this last month or so. I've never known it. So
All right.
Damien can make it for me.
And
So
I
if he's
think,
if he's vibing with the graphic design, he can fire that up 100%.
and with that, I think we have quite concluded
can.
the expectations to season 13. I have to thank you both for being with me on this for so long. And yeah, for everyone watching this
Happily.
back or listening back, cheers for taking out the time. Let us know if you like this, if we should do this again in the future. And yeah, any last words from you both?
From me,
Looking forward.
yeah, same. I think the one thing we need to speak about as well is if you watch it, like the endurance season.
Oh yeah.
That is
Good
separate to
point.
the
Good
season.
mention.
So if you fancy driving, the endurance season's coming up. We've got an opener in about 2 weeks at Nürburgring. Get
Yep.
in on that. Just get in on it. It's gonna be we're gonna have commentary from Stephen, who was sat here before. I'm gonna be live stewarding the damn thing, so I'll be sat in race control, giving penalties out. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be fun. We always have
Yeah,
a laugh.
that's gonna be very
like,
fun. Yep.
So get involved.
All right.
That's
mate.
it from me.
There you have it. Cheers
All
for
good for
listening
me.
in, and see you on the next one.